Hello, I'm Rex Basderfield, and this is an introduction video to my Quilcom Mystery synthesizer. The Mystery is a result of an experiment of mine. I wondered what would happen if you had an additive synthesizer, 16 partials, and each partial's amplitude was modulated by its own LFO. So 16 partials, 16 LFOs, and the option of a sub as well, which runs at 1 octave below the fundamental. I found by experimentation that this technique seemed to be best suited to making pads and soundscapes. So that is what the Mystery is aimed at. Now, there are a lot of great synthesizers that can make pads and soundscapes, but this is a particular technique which I think might be quite tricky to experiment with on regular professional synthesizers. So now I'll give you a quick overview of what we have here. We have two identical Mystery generators which produce the sound. We can detune them apart. We can set the stereo width or have them in mono. There's a psychopan option which I'll explain later, a multi-purpose delay, and a reverb where you can also set the so-called shimmer effect, which is a 1 octave pitch shifter. Then we can set the parameters relating to the tuning, so pitch bend, tuning, vibrato, and there's a recorder which on this synthesizer, because we're producing soundscapes, can actually record up to 1 minute, so you can make a WAV file and use it in a DAW on its own without using the Mystery. So I'll go into the details now of the Mystery generators. I'll just focus on Mystery 1 because they're identical. So if you turn Mystery 2 off and you just have one Mystery, either one, the signal becomes mono, and I've turned all the effects off here so you can just listen to the behavior of the generator as I go through it. So this row of amount knobs sets the level for each partial, F1 to F16, and the sub, and this row sets the LFO frequencies per partial. If we want to set the knobs all to the same value, there is an all knob here, and the same for the frequencies. We can select even harmonics and odd harmonics separately. So we can have a sort of hollow sound, a full sound, or a more organ-like sound. The fundamental is taken as even and odd, so you will always hear the fundamental even with both of them off, and you can bring in the sub as well. There's a template button which sets the 1/n, where n is the partial number, which provides the classic reduction of higher harmonics that you would get for a saw or square wave, depending on whether you have odd and even. So this sets it momentarily. So that makes it a standard additive oscillator. Now in the Mystery, a lot of use is made of randomization. So if we just randomize the amount manually by clicking on the random amount button, we get different timbres timbres. I always pronounce it incorrectly. So, what about all those LFOs? Well, this mix knob here sets the amount of LFO modulation, which modulates the amplitude of each partial, and so with it down fully we hear no LFO modulation, and increasing it brings in the LFO modulation per partial, and of course we can randomize the LFO modulation. For the LFOs, we have the option of randomizing the phase of each LFO when we play any note, and that starts the LFO cycle, which is a sine wave, at some random position in its cycle. So without randomized phase, we generally get a soft start because all the LFOs are starting at 0. Randomized phase, most often some LFOs will start somewhere at a higher amplitude than 0, so you get a variation between the same note played over and over again. And a sharper attack normally. Now this slew knob is very important. It's global for the whole generator, and it sets the time taken to slew or morph between two different scenes. So with it down at 20 milliseconds, the morph or slew is pretty much almost instant. But when we turn this slew rate up, let's turn it up to about a second. That'll do. We hear the sound morphing. It's a true morph from one setting to another, and this slew rate affects everything that changes in the generator. Next I'm going to talk about the N knob, and that is quite simply setting the number of pulses that you can hear from 1 up to 16, and doesn't include the sub, which is an option that you can turn on and off there. So that operates a bit like a perfect low pass filter. If I turn down the slew rate to minimum, you'll hear the steps. Turn it up, and the transition is smoother. Now we have a pitch offset here. The two generators can be offset against each other. So this is the sound of that. Now if you turn the slew rate up, you'll find that that has a portamento effect. Now it's very important for making soundscapes with the Mystery that you can randomize many elements. So I have a Randomizer Wall button, and if we turn this on, it will randomize according to the time period set on this knob. So what gets randomized? Well, if these little LEDs are turned on, then their appropriate knob or switch is controlled by the random or the regular update. So if we turn everything on except for the pitch, let's turn the randomization down a bit, and We're randomizing the slew rate here. I'm holding a 3-note chord. And there you can start to hear the potential of the system. We can also randomize the pitch. So to round off the description of a mystery generator, we have a conventional envelope generator here, and that just affects the volume, and we can make the volume velocity sensitive should we wish to with this velocity knob. So it's quite common for soundscapes and pads to make use of delay and reverb, so I've provided multifunction delay and reverb with shimmer. But the Psychopan option, I think you might find it very useful for making big wide sounds. So this is without the Psychopan or any of the other effects. Now this will sound quite good on headphones especially, so if we turn the Psychopan on, and we'll turn the width up as well, so get maximum benefit. So that's the Psychopan. What actually happens there is we have a quadrature oscillator running at a low speed, which actually swaps the stereo channels over gradually, and the speed of that LFO is randomized for every note, so you can get quite a nice swirly panny sort of sound per note. And the panning effect differs each time you play a note. And then when we add delay and reverb, we get this kind of sound. I should mention that the Psychopan is not really possible to achieve with an external effect because it's polyphonic, so internally you will get a different panning speed, stereo swap over, for each and every note that you press, and that's dedicated to that note, so an external effect couldn't achieve that. If you don't wish to use the built-in delay and reverb, just turn them off, and then you can use your favourite external effects as you wish. So there you go, that's an overview and a look at some of the details of the important and interesting bits, and as I always say, there's lots more information in the included user guide. So it goes into the pitch control and some of this stuff in greater detail, so it's worth having a look through that because you may have a few questions. So I'll play you out with a collage of some more sounds from the Quilcom Mystery, and I hope you find a use for it and find it inspiring. I certainly enjoyed playing around with it myself, and until the next time, bye.